First, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed, liked, commented. I appreciate everything that you've said. No matter what you've said, I appreciate the likes. Please share this with your friends. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you hit that share button. We're trying to make sure that everybody know that they're not victims, that they're empowered for greatness, that we can make a difference again in this nation. That we can stand up for biblical values, we can stand up for truth and push back against all the lies and everything that's false that's taking place in this land. So I appreciate that. And please, thank you for looking at my videos and participating and making our voice known. As the confirmation hearings for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson were underway this week, I couldn't help but think about the dichotomy between the impression and the perception of Judge Brown Jackson juxtapose Clarence Thomas in the black community. For those of you who don't know, Judge Clarence Thomas is the second black man to serve as a Supreme Court justice. He was nominated by George H.W. Bush in 1991, and he went through a confirmation hearing which was very combative. Matter of fact, President Joe Biden was very combative to Justice Thomas.
We all know what we're talking about here. You and I know at least what we're talking about here. There's a fervent and aggressive school of thought that wishes to see natural law further inform the Constitution than it does now. Argued against by the positivists led by Judge Bork. Now again, that may be lost on all the people. You know and I know what we're talking about.
But during that time, and I would dare to say even now, if Judge Thomas was being nominated and went through the confirmation process, the same Democrats, Cory Booker and the other ones, they would not be so flattering towards him. They will not feel joy by speaking to Clarence Thomas. You wanna know why? It's the simple reason: he's a conservative. White liberals, white progressives, and the black bourgeoisie do not think black men should speak that way. Matter of fact, they don't think black people should be conservative at all. They think that being black means that you toe the line when it comes to democratic policies. That's the only thing that separates Judge Brown Jackson versus Clarence Thomas, other than the fact that Judge Brown Jackson legislates from a living philosophy when it comes to the Constitution, whereas Justice Thomas is more of an originalist. Okay. So there are many things that separate them, but I'm talking about in the black community in terms of the perception. You have to understand, Judge Brown Jackson is just a token that was given to black people to pacify them, to satiate them, to make sure they vote Democratic in the midterms. That's the only reason, because the Democrats know if they lose the black voting bloc, then they are toast. Their chances of winning elections are toast. Why do you think the same people, they run every 2 to 4 years or every 6 years, and they use the same platitudes and the same thing, but they never accomplish anything? They take the black vote for granted. But getting back to the differences between Judge Brown Jackson and Clarence Thomas. Well, they both married outside of the race. Judge Brown Jackson, let's be honest, I mean, that's something that would technically disqualify a lot of black people in the eyes of some black people if they're married outside the race, especially married to the white supremacists. Yeah, so Judge Brown Jackson is married to a white guy, and Judge Thomas is married to a white lady. Now, to me, that doesn't matter, but to some people it does. But nevertheless, they overlook that. For Judge Brown Jackson, you wanna know why? Because she's progressive. And see, to them, progressive equates to being black. That's that hypocrisy in it. They only use black skin when it comes to people that are either progressive or people that are criminals. But if you are, quote unquote, got black skin and you're a conservative, or you're independent, or you're a free thinker, then you're no longer black. You're a sellout. You're Uncle Tom. You're a coon. That's the only thing that separates. Clarence Thomas should be celebrated in the black community. He came from poverty, a single mom, and he worked his way up to become the justice, and he's ruled on some great things. He should be celebrated in the black community, but no, he's not. He's a pariah, simply because they see him ruling based on an originalist view of the Constitution, and to them, that is in alignment with white supremacy, with white conservative thought, and so that is not being black. Being black means that you must be progressive. Being black means you must toe the Democratic platform. Being black means you must endorse everything that white, liberal, progressive send your way to assuage them of their white guilt. That's why Ketanji Brown Jackson is being elevated and being spoken about in the manner that she is. Let's look at some of these videos of pastors talking about Brown Jackson and Clarence Thomas.
Is following up on a campaign promise, but he's also bringing diversity of thought. Of the two black people who are going to be on the Supreme Court, between Ketanji and Clarence, their thought trains are going to be completely different.
He let Clarence Thomas pull off the greatest Murphy in the history of the country by sitting there crying about this a high-tech lynching, and knew full well what was in his heart wasn't any good for us as a people. Joe Biden should have done the same thing to Clarence Thomas he did to Judge Bork.
Clarence Thomas said this. He's worried about the efforts to politicize the court. Adding more justices, rather, may erode the institution's credibility. Clarence, I think it's too late for that. Clarence Thomas, if you are concerned about the credibility of the bench, maybe every now and then you maybe want to vote with something that doesn't align with the side of the aisle who nominated you.
And when you see that, that's what I'm talking about. That is the reason why Clarence Thomas is seen as a pariah in the black community, and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, even though she's married to a white guy, even though she grew up in a two-parent household, she grew up in an affluent community, she probably was brought up around white people. Yeah, I hate to go there, but I have to, so people can understand. She was brought up around white people. She was brought up, she went to an Ivy League school. She did this and did that, things that were so far away from the quote-unquote black experience, yet she's being celebrated. All because she was nominated by Joe Biden and she's considered a progressive. Listen to this. This is Chuck Schumer with his message to this Presbyterian church. Watch this message and we'll talk about it.
And I want to thank my friend, the Reverend Dr. Clive Neal, for inviting me to bring greetings to all of you, the great congregation of Bedford Central Presbyterian Church. During this Lenten season, we pray for the Ukrainian people who are valiantly resisting the onslaught of a vicious dictator, Vladimir Putin. I believe that this moment in history, just like Lent, will end in triumph. God works in beautiful and mysterious ways. In that spirit, I'd like to take a moment today to reflect on some truly great news that affects all of us. President Biden, as you know, has nominated a black woman, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, to be the next Supreme Court Justice. She is the first black woman ever nominated to this august and powerful position. My brothers and sisters, Senate Democrats have spent the past year working with President Biden to reshape the federal bench into a justice system that fully represents America. Under my leadership, 25%, a full 1/4 of all black women who sit on the federal bench were confirmed by the Senate just this past year. That's the progress we're making. And in general, I have worked to successfully confirm more people of color to these very powerful positions than anyone else.
Somebody tell me something. How can electing black judges really provide an impact to the black community? Why not emphasize entrepreneurship? Why not emphasize the ability to have the free flowing of capital into the community? They don't, because they don't subscribe to capitalism except if it's for them. They don't subscribe to the free market except if it's for them. That's why. So the only difference between Judge Thomas and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson in the eyes of the people that are trying to tell us black people why we should dislike Clarence Thomas and why we should applaud Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, simply because she's progressive and he's conservative. Simple as that. See, we are being told by the media that you should hate this person and like this person. They're controlling how they want us to think. They want us to make us victims. But we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. It is the media, and the media is controlled by white progressive elites. And they're trying to tell me who is good and who is not. That we cannot think for ourselves. We do not have agency enough to think as black people. We're not smart enough to think and consider and evaluate whose policies and whose renderings and whose rulings are better for us as a community. We're not smart enough, so we must be told that. That's the mindset of the elites. Their mindset is to tell us things, tell us what is good for us, as if they're parents. We don't need parents. We don't. They're here to represent us. They're here to be a reflection of us. And the majority of these people who are running in these primaries on the Democratic side, they're running on things that will not benefit the black community. Things such as defund the police, things such as the Green New Deal. That stuff doesn't help black people in the community. That helps the elites, the people on the coast. That does not help people in the inner city. It doesn't. Because everybody in the inner city is not going to drive solar-powered cars. They're not going to drive electric cars. They're not. But they don't tell you that. And so that's that dirty little secret. They want to tell you who's good and tell you who's bad. That's the only difference. You're being told. You're being convinced, you're being influenced, you're being persuaded by that spirit of the world to like one person and hate the other, simply because one person adheres to an originalist view of the Constitution and the other person doesn't. One person has a conservative view of the world and the other person doesn't. That is racism. That is racism. They're performing and they're practicing a form of racism. It's subtle, it's hidden, but it's there. That's racism. That is. Because they don't think a black man should be talking the way Clarence Thomas talks. He's getting out of his place. He's getting too uppity. That's the thought process behind it, and that's that mindset behind it. But I'm here to tell you, we are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. We can think for ourselves. We can evaluate who is good and who is not. Who has the best interest of America as a whole and who does not. I applaud Ketanji Brown Jackson for the place she got to. I do. I think it's good that she's a judge. Now, I disagree on some of the things she's ruled, but as far as a celebration of a person who has made it to a level to where she's considered as a Supreme Court justice, that should be applauded. But not because she's progressive, and not at the expense of Clarence Thomas, to see one as a person to celebrate and to see one person as someone to denigrate. That's not how things should be done, but that is what we are being programmed in the black community. Any black person that is conservative is considered bad. It's funny. You would not have seen the same kind of flowery rhetoric towards a person like a Candace Owens or Harris Faulkner on Fox News. They're just like Ketanji Brown Jackson, successful black women, married to white men. Just like her, same boat. The only difference, they're conservative. So they're called coons and all kind of stuff. Because we've been told that being Democrat means you're black. We're not a monolith. We do not all think the same way. As a matter of fact, I'm praying that more people have their minds renewed so they can think for themselves and get free from this deception, this spirit of deception that the media is trying to pour into the hearts and minds of black people. We are not victims. We are empowered for greatness. Thank you so much for liking your comments and subscribing to the channel. Please share this with your friends. Smash that like button. Smash the subscription bell. Share this with everybody you know. We're trying to make sure people understand that they're not victims, that they are empowered for greatness, and all this stuff that's out here that's telling them otherwise is false and will not benefit them in the end. So please, I appreciate that. Share that.